There are many ways to name it. For example, in Nahuatl it is called Lapali, and another way is Chiquitlic. The symbolism of this color among the cultures of Anahuac is diverse and rich. They associate this color with the color of the sun. That's why many solar deities, and those related to fire, had this color on their faces or garments. One example is Únete, who appears with a red face in some goddesses. Likewise, the fifth sun of the so-called Aztec calendar would have had many red pigments. In fact, red was likely the main color of the entire monolith. Red is closely linked to fire. The fire that humans saw on bonfires and volcanoes. Because of this, many fire deities bore this color, such as Xiuhtecutli or Huehueteotl. Among the Purépecha, there was also Curicaveri, the great lord of fire. Another red deity is the famous Xipetotec, one of the four colored Tezcatlipocas, the Flayer Lord. Depending on the source, some associated him with the east or west. This is because when the sun rises or sets, the sky turns red. Thus, red represents the flying of darkness into light, or vice versa. And this ties into cardinal directions, precisely because of the color seen in the sky. Among the Mexica, red was associated with either an east or the west. Among some Mayan groups, red is linked to the east, where the sun rises. Even today, the so-called Tenax people of the Huasteca region still use this color in their embroidery, also associating it with a cardinal point. In our philosophy, red was deeply connected to the concept of knowledge, through the phrase in Tlili in Tlalpan, that is, the black and red ink, an expression that symbolized the possession and transmission of knowledge. This also referred to the creation of what they now call goddesses, formerly known as Amoxtli in Nahuatl. These were created using inks and pigments, with red and blacks as their basis. These two colors were also associated with Quetzalcoatl, who passed knowledge to humans and eventually returned to that land of red and black. Beyond its link to the sun, perhaps the second most important symbolism of red is its connection to blood. To them, there were hot and cold liquids, blood being a hot one. Thus, one of the most valuable offerings they could make was their own blood. Countless myths and legends tell of beings, what we could now call mythological or divine, offering their blood so that the eras could continue. Because of this, people performed outdoor sacrifices to offer this precious liquid. Today, all the so-called archaeological sites are just bones. But in ancient times, many of these cities were completely painted red. This includes Teotihuacan, Chichen Itza, and Tintuntan, where the buildings and murals were covered in red pigment. Red is also tied to power and lineage, as shown by the red jaguar throne located in what is now called the Castillo de Cuculcán in Chichen Itza. And there's more! Red was obviously found in nature, making it highly valuable and expensive. There were minerals, insects, and plants from which red pigment was, and still is, extracted. Many types of clay had a reddish hue. Red was even present in the sea, with many animals having red-colored shells. We still have red-colored salt flats today. This color was also found in the feathers of various birds, and with them, the Amantecas, feather artists, created luxurious and prestigious objects like the chimali, shield, in the Vienna Museum. Another element of power, though they were unaware of its toxicity, was cinnabar, a mineral hiding mercury found in volcanic deposits. As previously mentioned, it represents power and blood, with the clearest example being the tomb of the so-called Red Queen of Palenque, whose burial chambers was coated in cinnabar, perhaps symbolizing a return to the womb after death. This pigment is also found in many artifacts, like the jadeite axe, which still shows trace of the mineral. Just as valuable as cinnabar is the red dye obtained from the cochinilla insects, known in Nahuatl as nochesli. This insect was, and still is, cultivated so that the females can reproduce, and by pressing them, they yield a dye that has been used for millennia to color fine fabrics. Another mineral that produced red was hematite, a red iron oxide used for body paints, murals, and rock art. There were also plants that yielded red dyes, like achiote and atto, a reddish-yellow natural dye source. It was used both to dye fabrics and to flavor cacao-based drinks and other foods. Its seeds produce a reddish-orange dye. And of course, there were berries and flowers that produced less durable dyes for textiles and paintings. Not to mention red corn, corpse, and the Cuetlaxochitl, now called the poinsettia, which was offered to Huitzilopochtli. As you can see, red was everywhere. In their own bodies, in minerals, in plants, in animals, in the sky, in sacred and everyday objects, and of course, in their worldview.